from Yemen originally, and I'm maybe the first one you met from Yemen. Have you been to Yemen before? Anyone have been to Yemen? It's not Paris, I know, but today I will talk about my journey from Yemen, South Africa, to Japan, and so on, and how peace and conflict shape us sometimes when we experience the war, and we also experience peace, and how we can understand the peace from different perspectives. So this is my picture with my other peace fellows from all over the world at the International Christian University. So thank you for giving me this opportunity to go to Tokyo and involve in such a great program. I will talk, you see so many things is happening here. You see Yemen, I'm not sure, I try just to put it on the map, but recently I think we are in the news because some guys blocking the Red Sea, shipments are coming through the Cape. So this is how some countries, fragile or the conflict is not affecting the country itself, but now it's conflicting, it's also affecting the entire world. So the Yemen story is a story of a beautiful country and how also it's affect the people who are living inside this country. I will talk about myself, the beginning of the story, about Yemen and business environment for humanitarian perspectives, and also how the humanitarian workers are operating and delivering service when everything is not normal. So also I will talk about my journey and how we can make hope and deliver the service for underprivileged people or people who are affected from the war. I was born in Saudi Arabia. I was schooled and raised in Yemen. We moved from Saudi Arabia to Yemen in the first Gulf War. This is, my father maybe and his grandfather, they didn't have that kind of systems to write their birthdays. But they said, in Gulf War, your brother was born. After that, when I was like in grade 8, the civil war in Yemen started. Then when I moved to the university, the second civil war in Yemen started. I left Yemen when there was a civil war and when the state collapsed in 2014. This is our calendar. It shows sometimes the big conflict as a part of your life. I work in Yemen with Gift of the Givers, but before that, I used to work as a journalist in Yemen News Agency, working with people, witness the suffering of the people, and you just reporting, writing words, but words sometimes doesn't change because people, they get used to see the suffering on the media. I got a chance afterwards to play an important role with Gift of the Givers Foundation. I met Dr. Imtiaz Suleiman in Yemen. I took him all over the country to see the suffering, and immediately we start our humanitarian work in Yemen. This was in 2012. Since then till today, we're still operating in 5 provinces around Yemen. And also, not only in Yemen, I moved also to Syria in 2013 and 2016. I witnessed also the suffering of the people and how the war is destroying the people from inside and make them losing hope. That's why Rotary perspective to spread the hope around the world is very important. When you visit the war zones and you see people are hopeless and they're just trying to survive no matter how, we cannot judge them. We have to understand why this happened. The story of Yemen is not just like a personal story, it's also about Yemen. Yemen is a normal country. We don't have that kind of globalization. We don't have McDonald's. We don't have Pizza Hut. We don't have, everything is still very basic. The poor and rich living in harmony without any problems. We didn't experience proxy war as now we are witnessing this in so many countries. Also, we didn't see the war was funded by internal and external factors. But now we see it in Yemen, we see it in Ukraine, we see it in so many countries. People, they wish to live in peace, but some resources funding this war in order to implement the hidden agendas. Then I asked myself, why my country is not developed? Why my country is in a war? Is this because of the people? Maybe because of the state. Then I started to understand the fragile state is a risk, because it's easy to change the situation in this fragile state and make it like a war zone. In Yemen, I witnessed the collapse. We saw the symptoms before the total collapse of the state in Yemen, but we ignored it. When we see everything is collapsing and falling apart, and we keep thinking this will be improved without working in the field. So I decided to understand why my country in war from what we call an academic perspective. Then in Yemen, because of its fragility, it's become a war field for several countries. Now we are officially in a war since 2014. Before that, we had like 7 civil wars, and you imagine going through all these wars, the internal displaced people moving from a place to another, trying to find a peaceful place. Millions of people, they seeking a peaceful place. And because of the hidden agenda, the war is also happening in this area. At other times, it's happening in this area. And they didn't give these people who are trying to live in peace a shelter or a place to live peacefully. Look at business environment. This was my MBA perspective. When I moved to the University of Reading, I studied how we can operate in a volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous business environment. When we try to deal with the complications on the ground and deliver humanitarian assistance, we don't need to ask why this is happening. We have to ask how we can deliver, because this is not our work. The fragile states operating in a very bizarre way. They make it the life of its people very difficult, and also for humanitarian assistance, it's even more difficult, because everyone trying to get a chance in order to involve and also use the humanitarian assistance for the hidden agendas. So operating in this way, we have to deal with the situation without asking who caused this and why this is happening. And from this, I would like to say, for all the humanitarian workers all over the world, and anyone trying to deliver any humanitarian assistance to the people in need, we really respect that. We have to understand this, how difficult it's been. These people, they sacrifice their lives, they sacrifice everything. They come from stable countries to more unstable countries in order to deliver the humanitarian assistance. Some of them, they get killed, some of them get arrested, detained. Everything is possible under these circumstances. Okay, from Yemen to South Africa. I started in 2012 with Gift of the Givers, moving from a place to another. And then I've heard about, in 2014, 2 South Africans were held captive in Taiz. Taiz is the second largest city in Yemen. And they knew there is no South African embassy in Yemen, and even if there is embassy, they don't have this kind of connection to follow to where to find the hostage. I spoke with Dr. Ibn Sulaiman. I told him, can we do something? He said, of course, if we can do it, let's do it. But then when he said yes, I said, how we can do it? These guys were kidnapped by militia called Al-Qaeda. They believe these guys were responsible for the 9/11, for a very big terrorist activities, not only in Yemen, but around the world. I started, because I know media friends, I started to publish the news that we are hoping to discuss how we can get this hostage out. I met the South African ambassador at that time in Yemen. In 2014, it's the same year where the militia took over the capital city of Yemen. So the country is collapsing, and there is a hostage need for assistance. If you ask me, do you know Pierre Corky and Yolandi? I don't know them. I haven't met them before. I just want to help. I met the South African ambassador, and he told me, if you can do something, please do it. Announcement after announcement, engaging with the communities from different areas. I don't know where they are. And then I got a phone call from someone called himself from Al-Qaeda, and he said, come to a city called Lahj. Lahj in that time there was a conflict between the government and the militia Al-Qaeda. It's a war zone. I met them, they said, okay, let's start the talk, give us $100,000 in order to start talking. I got nothing. But there was inside motive that I can do something. I told them I have nothing, but we are open to talk. Then, meeting after meeting, they started to ignore because they believed there was no money can be paid for this. Then one idea came to my mind. They said, just give Yolandi Koki for free, and we will try to raise funds for her husband. So I keep one and give me one. If you keep two, no one is going to help and assist for ransom fund. I was praying they don't accept it because I don't know how I can raise $3 million. But a few days later, they just called me and they said, okay, we approved your offer and we will release Yolandi Koki. But in this case, you are guaranteed, we have your guarantee to give us this amount of money. I said, it's okay, let's release it. They phoned me, I remember that day, it was on the 5th of December. They phoned me early in the morning, like 1 a.m. They said, we are on the way, bring her to Aden, and otherwise we'll drop her in Hadramaut. Hadramaut is just like 12 hours, desert areas. We'll drop her there, and then you can pick her up from there. I said, no. I want to meet her, and then I take her by myself. They said, okay, come to Lahj. Lahj is a very remote area. I moved at 2 a.m. They told her, do you know her? I said, yes, I know her, of course. It was just like trying to get her out, no matter how. They said, okay, we will let her talk to you. And we want her to be quiet because we will cross so many checkpoints all over the way to you. I said, okay. But in that time, I was praying that he doesn't say, I don't know this guy. And then I spoke with Dr. Imtiaz. I phoned him like 2:30 a.m. I told him, this is the situation and they need someone to talk to her. So send them my number. They phoned Dr. Imtiaz Sulaiman that time. He spoke with her like Africans and just tried to give her that an idea that we are going to release her. She doesn't know who's gifted the givers and who's this guy who's speaking poor Africans. And then she crossed. I also crossed all the checkpoints in order to see her in Lahj, which was a war zone. On the way, we had one of Al-Qaeda with us. And he said he was happy that to show us their terrorist activities in the area. He said, look, this stadium, we killed about 200 soldiers in this stadium. We bombed this gas station. We had attack in this cemetery. They attacked people in the cemetery. We moved together to reach to that area, and then they opened the door. There was a lady with blue eyes. I said, for sure, this is because we didn't have that very common blue eyes in Yemen. I said, for sure, she's Yolandi Koki. And then she came to me and she said, okay, how much did you pay? I said, nothing. Let's go now and we will discuss later. I took her. There was a war zone. I told them, you have to take me to a safe area because even if the legitimate government found me with the lady, they will say I kidnapped her. I was in a connection with the president's office that time, but no one was awake that time. So they said, we are supporting you, but no one answered, like at 4 p.m., at 4 a.m. that time. So they took us to Aden. From Aden, it was like 7 a.m. We started to call all the South African ambassador and all the authorities. They came to the location, and she was freed. And then she left Yemen. Her husband was there, but at least one of them was released. After that, you know all the story. There was Luke Summers, a photojournalist, American photojournalist, was in the same location with Pierre Koki. There was 2 military attempts by the U.S. in two similar locations in order to release them by force, to release Luxembourg, but unfortunately Pierre Coquet wasn't in the same place. After that, attempt after attempt, then there was a statement from Al-Qaeda, they will kill the hostage if they do it again, and it's happened for the third time, and unfortunately the hostage was killed by Al-Qaeda. And the same location, the American troops, they killed about 13 of Al-Qaeda in the same location. So at that point, I had to leave Yemen because they believed I leaked information and they got ransom, and it's very hard to justify, or because they don't understand why someone involved in such a case without motivation just to help. This was the story. I came to South Africa, and the first I met some South Africans. They said, "Do you like it here?" And then I said, "Yes, I do like it here. People are so friendly and everything is good. At least I scared Yemen at the moment." And by the way, when I moved to Japan, I met so many Japanese. They said, "Do you like it here?" Yes, of course, I do like it here. Each country has its unique things, so you don't need to judge whether this country is good or bad. Each country is different from another. However, I came to South Africa, start my work again with Gift of the Givers, and then in 2020, I remember it was the 3rd of April. By the way, it's my wife's birthday. I got a confirmation email from Rotary club that I was accepted to be a peace fellow. It was a good sign that the same day of my wife's birthday, I got this email. I got the communication with Anna Marie, Peter, Thomas, Francis, Kara, Hill, so many people, Mariana, and so on, so many, I can't mention all of them here. They supported me. I find in this Rotary opportunity a chance to understand from academic perspective. I've got experience how the states collapse, the symptoms of collapsing, and how the resilience of people in this situation. But from the academic perspective, I had to understand how we can understand these things and make a solution for this country in order to, because this is not our destiny to remain in a war for decades. I believe there is something we have to do even in the individual level and also in the governmental level also to protect the people of being under the worst circumstances. Then I communicated, then COVID. My fellowship was deferred to 2022. Everything was frozen that time, COVID, just like silent, didn't do anything, staying at home. Then I came to the ICU. I saw the Japanese culture. I understand from the academic perspective how we can help the fragile states. And by the way, Yemen, which was according to the International Peace Index, was the most fragile state in the world in 2022. Somalia took over 2023. So just like Somalia, Yemen, Mali, South Sudan, these countries still on the top as the most fragile states. In the International Christian University, I met also so many Rotarians. They welcomed me with open arms, and then I've learned from the Japanese how they went through all the conflict and then to the Second World War, and how they make peace as a decision, and they stick with it, and how they develop their country, and ignoring the calls to return to the war or be prepared for other wars. So it was such a great experience also to see Hiroshima and to see the impact of the atomic bomb in that place. And also, I learned a lot from the International Christian University relating to the international law, the peace and conflict studies, also the fragile states, the international organization, political institutions, and how we can rebuild the countries after it's completely collapsed. I met Chris. I'm not sure if anyone met Chris before. I met him in Japan, and he said, while we were talking with all other peace fellows, he said, we simply request that you change the world. Have you been to Yemen before? How it's difficult to change things, but there is a possibility to change things. On the individual level, in more stable country, it's easier for people because they have a room to work, to engage with the communities, to boost the peace. But when the state is collapsed or about to be like fragile or totally collapsed, we have to help the state instead of just wait till it's collapsing and then we suffering as on the international level. You see Yemen, the blocking of the Red Sea movement and the shipments, how it impacted the whole world, because there is about 19% of the international trade coming through Bab al-Mandab, through Yemen. Because the militia took over the country, they become a threat for the international growth and the international economy. But if they helped the international community and they engage in a way to support the international, the fragile state, we wouldn't have this situation. And we would support the fragile state and strengthen these states in order to prevent the total collapse. Because dealing with the consequences is very hard, but dealing with the symptoms, it's much easier. That's why my research is about how we can help the fragile states. And also, one part of my research is how we can also use the technology, AI, Internet of Things, cloud storage, and all this. It's not only for the top countries. Also, we can help the less developed country and get advantage of this. And also, even if this is new and we don't have the infrastructure, we can do this if we have the plan and if we have the will to do that. There is billions of dollars donated to the less developed countries, and it's going through like corrupt or dysfunctional states, and it doesn't go on the way that it's supposed to be. But if we help the fragile states to restructure and also to strengthen these fragile states and use this humanitarian assistance or international assistance to force these leaders in these states in order to do better and also reshape the way and use this technology, it will help also the people. The manual processes in the fragile state is fully corrupt, but if we move this to make it like in the cloud-based systems and to start to use the Internet of Things and new technology, we will reduce the level of corruption, and the outcomes will automatically goes to the people on the bottom. So all this, it's possible if there is a will from the international community, because the state, when it's collapsed, it's called for everyone to help. It's not like people in this situation and the individuals, they're not heard by the corrupt governments. That's why there is no justice. But they heard the militias. That's why even the kidnapping issues in Yemen started as a way to push the government to do like, we want electricity in our village, so let's kidnap someone, and then the government will hear us, okay, we will release him if you do this project for us. Started and then evolved to become like a business. And when the militia take over, it become like part of their business, not only in Yemen. We saw this in Yemen, in Somalia, Afghanistan, Mali, and so on. So that's all from my perspective, and I believe the more you know is the more you're liable toward your people and toward the globe. So this fellowship, or anyone who knows more about peace, is more liable toward his people. He must show them. He must be like in Arabian, we have a proverb, and we said, if you know more, you have to be like a prophet with your community. Show them the right way. Tell them the good things. Don't judge. The more you know, and you feel yourself like, no, I know more. Oh, I don't like this behavior, but I don't know. No. You have to engage in a way that to educate people about peace. So, and I hope to see more peace centers in Africa and the Middle East. Most of the conflict around the world not happening in Europe, just Ukraine and the Second World War before. But now, Africa, Middle East is the source of conflict, and I hope to see more peace centers and more Rotary clubs all over the Middle East also, because we had in a few countries like Egypt, like United Arab Emirates, but the rest of the countries they don't have. And there is a need for peace. And there is now an opportunity to do this. So I hope that I summarize everything for you.